Hey guys, today I want to talk about a couple of things in reference to a job that we actually just started today. Two of them being why it's important to back butter your tile, and two, choosing the correct trowel size and how you actually lay your thin set. So in the case, my client called me, said he had a lot of cracked travel chain tile, as you guys can see, and two reasons that this tile cracked. One being, you can see he's got a pretty significant crack in his foundation, not just in the room that I'm working in, but in the living room as well. And two, this tile was not laid properly. Now, as you guys can see down here on this thin set, this is a perfect example of thin set not being troweled out correctly. The reason being is you see these swirl marks. Now, this set here is going this way, this one's being pulled this way, this one's being pulled, and then he kind of turned it. What happens in this case is that the thin set or the mortar does not collapse down on itself, which is why we have different size trowels based on different size tile or tile jobs. So here's just some of the tile, and this is actually the back of one of the travertine tiles, where you can see no thin set was applied. There's nothing, you've got a little bit here and there, but there's no thin set on this piece of tile, okay? Now there being the top, this being the bottom, okay? Especially the way this is laid on a large format floor, you really need to back butter these tiles so you know you're getting proper adhesion not only on your tile, but on your floor as well. Now when you pull your thin set, and I know a lot of tile guys will maybe not necessarily argue this point, but it's really important to pull your thin set all in one direction, and then so when you compress the tile and you move it around, these ridges have the ability to collapse. Now in this case, that's not what happened. So basically the only portion of this thin set, and in this case none of it, that's actually sticking to the tile are the tops of the thin set right there and these ridges. So that's a huge issue there. The second being, there's a lot of places on this floor where the thin set didn't stick as well. And my guess to that is that it's a pretty porous concrete surface, and they didn't wet it. What happens when you lay this down like that is the foundation or the concrete or the substrate will literally suck all of the moisture out of the thin set, pretty much, deactivating, if you will, the polymers inside if it's a modified thin set, and it literally sucks all that moisture out, so it dries out and it doesn't give you that good adhesion. So just remember, when you're laying tile, especially in a large format, to make sure you're choosing the correct size. Large format tile, 15 inches or bigger, obviously you want to start with a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch trowel. But again, make sure you're pulling the thin set all in one direction. It doesn't really matter whether it's left to right or up to down or, etc. But make sure everything's all traveling in one direction so that those ridges can collapse on themselves. And again, back butter your tile. I know a lot of guys will argue with me about that, but I mean, you can see in this case, almost every single one of these tile that I pulled up just popped right up, and there was no thin set on the back of them because they just weren't back buttered. So you got to make sure that you have, mortar on the back of your tile, mortar on the floor, everything pulled out. That way you get the proper adhesion. Or you end up in a case like this where unfortunately my client's going to have me come back in and redo this. Now this happens to be a Versailles pattern where you've got 4 different size tile. You've got some 16 by 24s, 16 by 16, 8 by 8, and then an 8 by, I think that one's an 8 by 12. Laid in a specific direction, obviously, and they have a really intricate pattern that goes with them. It's a very nice pattern. But in a case like this, I'm actually having to pull up about 400 square feet of tile so that, I can get this all laid in correctly and everything. But the big case being, this tile was actually just laid very poorly and very sloppily. So now we're having to go back and fix it. Again, if you guys have any questions, by all means, feel free to comment on my video, I'd be more than happy to you know, answer it if I know the answer or point you in the right direction. But again, make sure you know what size trowel to use, pull your thin set all in one direction, and back butter your tiles, or else you're going to end up like this.